topics. We had good number of topics about COVID and COVID related. So we thought, so all of you probably are experts in like understanding about COVID or what it is exactly. So we thought for a change and a very important topic as well, we thought let's do about something about common illnesses, right? So let me share my screen. Can you enable screen share? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Is my screen visible? Yes. Okay, good. So the topic we selected for today is this is like what can I do at home series kind of thing, where we will take you through first the first topic. What we'll be doing is the first thing. It's about common medical symptoms which every parent faces. So my kid is not well. It can be any symptom, commonly seen symptoms. And the thing is, instead of you thinking, okay, where to go, which doctor to meet, how to meet, the first, I think, first question you should ask yourself, what can I do at home? I think I think this is basically to empower you all parents to so that you understand these symptoms well and what is in your limit to manage at home, what is not in your limit. So you have to understand what is not in your limit and when you should not wait beyond certain limit so that it does not become a kind of medical emergency, right? So first is the objectives is basically to understand common symptoms. What is not worrying? That's important. Even no any symptom to start with is not worrying actually. Like fever, just fever for no 1 hour duration is not worrying. So you have to know what is not worrying. What can I do at home for relief? What are the warning symptoms and when do you need to get to hospital? Right. So the most common symptom I think everyone agrees is the fever, right? Fever in children, fever in adults, everyone. And now though this is the kind of a hot word because of the current COVID, right? So normally, if you know the average temperature is 98 points, the average, there is a range just below and above this. So anything above 100.4, technically, what we call it as definition as fever. But although anything above 99, you might start feeling feverish, right? So when do you suspect fever? Not just that when you touch your child, you can always anticipate fever when for example you have come back from traveling. There are some climate changes happening, especially now when the rainy season has started, or someone is not well at home, right? Then also you can think that okay, some person not well, the child also might start having a fever or any other symptom, and your child is not behaving as usual, right? So you know what is your child's usual, and he's not behaving as usual, and if he is dull, right? So what you can do basically when you find that your temperature of the child is above 100, you're feeling that he's feverish, he's not as usual. So understand that it is a fever, okay? And then what you can do is start basic first thing. What you have to do is start paracetamol. This is the most commonly used medicine. Everyone will be knowing. Everyone will be having at least the medicine at home. So the frequency usually is once in 5 to 6 hours, and the dosage is very important. So dosage I would usually we calculate as 15 mg per kg, but you don't get into the calculation. Just follow the immediate previous dosage which was prescribed by a doctor recently. You can start that, right? And main thing is here is the confusion will be about drops, syrup, and tablets. So be aware of what you have and what your doctor has prescribed. So because drops is more concentrated, this is mainly for a small babies and infants what we give. Syrup is for grown-up kids, and tablets is for the kids like 7, 8 years, 9, 10 years, like that. Those who can swallow it. Strength is different. That's important. If the fever is not getting controlled, what you can do? So going above 1 or 2. So tepid sponging. This usually I think your doctor would have told. Now do sponging, right? So anyone has wondered how to do this sponging, right? So this sponging is basically you have to use lukewarm water. Logically, you can think that yes, cold water will reduce the temperature, but no, lukewarm water is what will make the heat escape from the body. So when you take lukewarm water, it should not be very hot. Lukewarm water, take a cloth and not just keep it on the forehead. It's not just this is keeping on the cloth on the forehead is not actually tip sponging. So you have to wipe the whole body, including the forehead, face, back, hands, legs, everything, tummy, back. That's when the temperature, the heat evaporates along with the water, right? Main thing, one more thing, what you see is children usually will be dull during fever. They will not be feeding. They would have skipped couple of feeds. So what you try to do is you start force feeding them. So better don't feed during the fever. They tend to vomit. Okay, so you have to make sure that okay, once the fever comes down, you can feed them. And once the fever starts, usually you can expect some couple of spikes every 4 to 6 hours. So don't be wonder that okay, you gave paracetamol, fever went away, and again fever is coming back. This is usually the concern what I've seen. So fever comes back. That's how it behaves. 4 to 6 hours every, it will be there couple of days. If everything else is fine, you need not worry. Only fever. So I'm talking of only fever, nothing else. Everything else is fine. He is otherwise in between, like active, in between fever spikes. He's able to eat. He's able to drink, passing urine normal. All these are kind of signs of that your child is able to fight off the fever. Now, when to worry, right? So any fever in infants up to 3 months is something to worry because this is not very common, and if it is there, it's usually a sign of infection, right? Except post vaccination. So after vaccination, usually 1 or 2 days, the fever might be there. That is different. Other than that, newborns and infants up to 3 months, even one spike of fever, you make sure that you reach out to a pediatrician. If the child is very dull in between the fever spike, that's important. Fever comes down, he's jumping around, it's good. But fever comes down, but is still dull, it's not good. So make sure you understand this and keep in mind other symptoms. Fever is there, he starts vomiting, he starts having loose motions, the child starts also having coughing. So multiple symptoms, right? Then also you have to be very careful and see how it's progressing. And anything which is worsening rapidly, it's not good, right? And one more thing is fever in high risk children. So high risk children are those who have some chronic health issues, liver problem, kidney problem, those who have some other like immunodeficient problems. In them, it is not at all safe. So you have to immediately reach out to your pediatrician. Decrease urine output than usual. It's very important because of fever. They might get dehydrated. You're not giving them adequate feeds. You have to make sure that no, if his urine is passing well. If not, then please reach out to pediatrician. So usually 48 to 72 hours is what is okay to wait with paracetamol and things like that, and everything else is fine. So it's not, if you don't see any signs of the things coming down in 2 to 3 days, please reach out to a pediatrician. I think now in the era of COVID, you all have an option to reach out to your pediatrician virtually at any point. So I don't say that wait for 2 to 3 days and then reach out to virtually. If you have access to your pediatrician, you can reach out to them in the first day, second day, so that you get proper guidance. But if any of these warning signs are there, always preferable to meet your pediatrician in person, because the warning signs are there. It will be difficult for him to assess what's really happening. Right? That's very important. The next one is fever and fits. So some children, around 2 to 3% kids, what we see is they usually get fits with fever. Fits you'll be knowing, right? These are kind of movements you'll be seeing like that, no? The angle of mouth going like this, hands and shaking. So this usually seen in adults, but yes, kids also get it. Some kind around 2 to 3% kids, they have this fits when they get only with high fever, right? So usually around less than 6 years, not beyond that. It can also be something like not always movements like this. It can also be like they at the height of fever, they look at you staringly. They you feel like they're momentarily not responding, right? Or frank movements might be there. So these are all kind of varieties what you see in fever and fits. We call them as febrile seizures in medical terminology.
ಅದ್ರ ಫೋಟೋ ಡಿ ಎಲ್ ಇದೆ
It's usually common if there is a family history. That means either of the parent had as a experienced this as a child. So if any of you had experienced this, you can expect that in your child when the child is having fever. So just be vigilant. If it's only for a while and less than 2 to 3 minutes, and the child is normal after that event, and child is behaving normally, it's fine. You do not panic at that moment, right? So what you can do is immediately start paracetamol. As soon as is behaving normally, you start giving paracetamol the same dose. uh, uh, or even before this event happens, at any sign of fever, tepid sponging, as I explained, you start doing that. Do not feed during that time of that abnormal movements, because they might aspirate. And don't give any metal objects. You would have seen in movies, right? Giving the metal objects and then the fits and all, they kind of control. It's not scientific. Don't do that. It can cause injuries. Okay. And one important thing what you can do is you can make the child lie on the side position. That's very important, right? So what happens is during this kind of events, okay, this is what happened. During seizures, what we call, they are not able to swallow their saliva, and then what they do is they start aspirating. So what you do, make the child lie down in side position. When they do lie down in side position, there is very less risk of aspirations. You can clean the mouth, okay. And don't try to kind of hold the hands legs very tight, right? Make sure they're in a safe place, but don't try to too much hold very tightly, right? That is very important. So now I'm sure this is, if somebody has not experienced, this is very frightening. So first advice is, as soon as it stops, you just meet your pediatrician. But for those families who have experienced this, if this is happening, you know that up to 5 minutes you can wait, and then child is normal. But if these kind of movements are happening without any sign of fever, see, that is very important. So I'm explaining this point here because any such kind of thing happening without fever as well, right? It is even it is like 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 5 minutes, it is not okay. You have to meet your pediatrician, because there is no cause which you are able to see here, right? It might be any neurological cause which we have to find out. So doctor has to examine. There is no waiting here, okay. And movements are not stopping within 5 minutes. Those children who are prone to get it, they get that, for example, with fever, and it's expected. Parents have anticipated it, but it's not stopping within 5 minutes. Please reach out to pediatrician. Meet them in person, okay. Go to a hospital. And for example, it is like 1 or 2 minutes, but after this event, child is not behaving normally. You don't see, otherwise kids behave normally even after fever comes down. They are otherwise normal, right? So the child is not behaving normally, it's not good. Please don't wait. You have to meet a pediatrician, okay. And after this event, you feel that okay, he's not moving any of the limb normally, it's not good. Please get back to pediatrician. It's happening again and again, like it happened like a couple of minutes back, or a couple of hours back. With every fever spike it's happening, please meet. So this is something like which is really frightening as well. There is no point in waiting, saying that okay, this looks fine, that does not look fine. So always rush to hospital. This is better compared to other symptoms, okay. The next one, we have something called as crying child. You would have seen, I think I know how distressing it is to handle a child who is crying, right? It kind of stresses out. Even if it is like 5 or 10 minutes of crying, creates a lot of stress in the family. The father is running on here. It might be diaper or feed. Like the tensions are high. I understand, but I'll tell you an interesting point. For infants up to 3 months, 2 to 3 hours per day of crying is normal, right? You might be kind of freaked out uh, at the end of 5-10 minutes, but no, medically what we've seen, 2 to 3 hours per day of crying is normal in infants. But thing is, it's contextual. You don't measure in hours, like go on measuring and then say okay is normal. So there are a lot of other things which are there. I'll explain what is normal, what is abnormal, right? See, crying is basically in infants, what they do is that's a way of expressing hunger, a way of expressing discomfort, way of expressing pain, anything, way of expressing boredom as well, right? So as children they grow older, then they find various other ways of expressing, like when they start talking, they start giving gestures, and then that's how the crying duration also reduces, so that it does not get confused, right? And in bit children who are like school going, they do this crying as a their technique to seek attention and throw tantrums to get anything they want, right? This is very common. They want to have something, they throw this tantrum, they kind of do kind of drama of crying, which will confuse you. But yes, but apart from all this, the one very important thing is you have to find out whether this is all because of attention seeking tantrum, or really a child is crying because of pain or discomfort, right? See, as I told, pain or discomfort is also one of the important cause of crying. So keep in the back of your mind and find out why is the child crying. So what you can do is you have to look for all body parts. In case they had sprained their leg, they would have fallen somewhere, had some scratches or injuries, some swelling is there somewhere, right? Some insect has bitten small child. All these are causes. So you have to actively look at this. If you feel it is not just because he's not crying just because of no attention seeking or tantrums, right? In infants, colicky pain is very common. No? Like if the babies are having sometimes overfeeding, or they kind of swallow a lot of air with breastfeeding. At the time, you can see that they scream hell lot of high pitch screaming, and then after some time they're again normal. So this is common. So what you have to do is, this is very common in infants. This is usually called as infantile colic, what we call. So the solution for this is you have to burp them properly. Put on your shoulder and then pat them well after feeding, and usually that relieves. You would have all experienced, right? And anything weird, any weird behavior is also not good. Crying child, but behavior is weird, it's not good. So you have to note all these things and take a decision. So what is the warning signs? These are warning signs, are something which you see, it means it is not good. It's an indication to meet the pediatrician. Inconsolable crying, you're not able to console whatever it is, not able to find the cause as well. Crying with other symptoms like continuous crying with fever, crying with vomiting, crying with loose motions too much, might be a sign of pain, right? Crying but otherwise happy, healthy, jumping around, it's good. But continuous crying but not feeding and decreased urine output, it is something kind of indicating that something is not normal, right? And as I told, not behaving normally. The crying just continues, it's not settling down. Even if the child is fine, right? The child is fine, but the crying just goes on continuing, it's not settling down. Please meet. And crying is there, but crying stops, but you notice some swellings, as I told, limping, or is they're not moving the limbs normally. All these are things which has to be examined. Only then the pediatrician can come to a conclusion, right? So I'm going to cover just a couple of more symptoms: vomiting, loose motions, and cough, and then I will leave it to kind of, we'll have an interaction. I know that there might be a lot of other concerns, questions regarding this, so we'll have spend good amount of time to kind of I can clarify all those doubts. Okay. Vomiting. So why does a child vomit? See, vomiting is basically is body's way of pushing out the things which is not suitable. Your stomach is having a lot of irritation from the food, or your body is allergic, right? Or you commonly call it as gastric. What you call gastric, gastric ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. So this is common even in seen in adults as well. So you can suspect this if you had some unusual food, something new food he has, or he has food from bought from outside. Okay, you ordered somewhere in Swiggy, Zomato, or we don't know about the hygiene of the food, or you're having some street food now that lockdown is over. Very spicy food, non-veg, too much of spicy, too much of like some snacks. He had one or two packets of chips, right? Or too much of mangoes. Now this is a season where we have a lot of mangoes, so this mangoes with artificially ripened, they usually cause some irritation. So what you can do at home is you can start with some common anti-vomiting medicines. Usually many parents have this at home. This is like Emised or what we call Ondem. These are the common medicines, right? At the same dosage you can use which you have been given from the doctor previously. And is usually vomiting medicines are given around 15-20 minutes before feeds. Okay, you don't give it after feeding, so give it before feed. So you give this medicine, wait for 15-20 minutes, and then start giving sips of water. Okay, and then if it's tolerating, wait for some more time and then give solid. This is how you kind of try and test, okay, if vomiting can be controlled. At the same time, you try to see what was the cause of the vomiting, right? If something you could found it, something new food you had outside food, just stop that. Don't continue that. Avoid spicy hard food and citrus fruits. All can continue to irritate the stomach and cause vomiting. Now coming to the important point, when do you kind of worry that it is okay? This is really worrying, right? If you find any blood in vomiting, yes, please don't wait. Please go and meet your pediatrician. Greenish vomiting. I'm sure many of you would have known vomiting. Usually, food particles might have some water, right? Or they might be yellowish. This is fine. But if you feel something is greenish, it is not good. It's a sign that there is a block below your stomach. The food is not going down. You have to kind of get it examined by your pediatrician, right? And it's not settling with medicines. This I have commonly seen, right? When the parent says, "I've been giving vomiting medicine for the last 2 days, vomiting not settled." So if the parent has not understood that you are giving medicine, but vomiting is not settled, so the child is going to lose all the energy, fluids, hydration from the body. So don't wait. Couple of times you give medicines and vomiting is not settling, it is something might be beyond, you might require more medicines or injections, please reach out to your pediatrician, right? Vomiting, and child becomes dull, not good, definitely. But a child is active around, it's fine. But child is becoming dull, definitely not good. Associated with other symptoms, no, like fever is there and continuously vomiting, not good. Too many loose motions, vomiting, not good. Please go and meet a pediatrician. Okay, these are something, some of the warning signs which you should always keep in mind. Another similar thing is loose motion, right? It's again body's way of letting out unpleasant food, irritant food, or there might be some indigestion, right? Usually, if it is small quantity, but multiple times, it's manageable. But if the child is purging too much large quantity and child is becoming very weak, it's not good, right? The foodborne infection is one very important cause you have to keep in mind. And how do you detect this? If too much loose motions are there and associated, there is there is a fever as well. If there is a fever associated with too much of loose motions, then yeah, most probably there would have been some infection. So please be careful and don't wait too long. Okay. So when the loose motions are happening too much, what you can do? Make sure that you might be kind of experience that as soon as you feed, the child passes motion. It's fine, but the feeding, whatever you're feeding, the body is not expelling just like that. The body is extracting energy and water out of it because of indigestion. There is a fluids loss is there. Don't stop feeding, right? And one important thing is you usually parents, they go on counting the number of motions, right? The number of this many times, 5 times, 8 times, 10 times, but you always forget to count the number of times child is passing urine. If the child is passing good number of times urine, that means your kidneys are functioning well, and then body is hydrated. Okay, so focus also on urine number of times. The urine frequency is coming down, it's not good, definitely not good. That means body is losing too much of water. You have to immediately no get back to your pediatrician. One important thing what you can do is, when I mentioned fluids here, it means ors. Ors is some usually the powder which is available. Mix it as in the sachet and keep giving small sips. It can be ORS, it can be tender coconut water, it can be kanji, it can be any small soft food. But don't stop feeding. That's very important. Okay, I think you have to get this into mind. I have seen commonly that as soon as you feed the child passes motion. That's why I'm not feeding. No, this is not correct. Okay. Now again, warning signs, right? So it's expected if something frightens you, right? So blood in stools, if something frightening is not good. So please meet large quantity at a time. Small quantity is fine, but each time child is passing as a gush and then too much, and the child is becoming weak, not good. Please start meet a pediatrician more than 5 to 6 times, but then it might worsen also. So be careful with fever, with pain in the stomach, and with irritability. It's not good. Okay, as I told, decrease urine, decrease activity, not good. So coming to the last one, this is the last symptom I'll be explaining, and then we can have a discussion. So cough and cold, this is I think one more important thing now. Now that the flu season also is starting and current COVID time, right? So running nose or blocked nose, both of them can be the initial starting part of a cold and cough, or what usually called viral initially. Okay, and this blocked nose is usually can cause noisy breathing, and it can frighten especially the newborn babies or like infants, right? Because there's no their nostrils are very small. Okay, any small block will be there. It can cause noisy breathing there. Usually viral to start with and associated with fever. So if cold and mild cold is there, bit of running nose, bit of cough is there, you start with paracetamol if there is fever. Okay, mild cough is common and is not, and if not disturbing, it can be manageable. If the when I say not disturbing, it's not disturbing the feeding of the child, it's not disturbing the your nursing of the child, is not disturbing, it's fine, right? Be vigilant, no, especially the current pandemic scenario. I don't want to tell you that wait if there is a cold and cough for 2 to 3 days, because uh, as I told, like it's not all colds and coughs are COVID, but yes, in the current scenario, we have to assume kind that they're most of them are COVID, especially in the current context. And if any other family members are also having similar symptoms, the first thing we have to suspect it might be COVID if you had come in contact with someone positive, right? Otherwise, it can also be regular flu. But be vigilant. If many people are getting the same symptoms at home, it can be some viral flu as well. So what you can do, nasal drops. These are commonly available, which you have many. I know where many of you would have used. just use nasal drops to relieve the blocked nose. Carefully give steam inhalation, right? I've seen, parents, when I say steam inhalation, they take a boiling, a vessel with boiling water. They put the towel and then start giving. Child puts the finger or hand in the boiling water. They develop burn, and this is something like no unnecessary complication. So if you have a steamer, carefully do it with some distance. It should be at least 30-40 centimeters distance should be there. Don't keep it very near. Okay. And if a child is old enough, you can always ask him to do gargling. It helps to kind of give soothing effect. So there are things you can do. Along with this, many parents, they give this honey, lemon juice. All these are home remedies which helpful. You can do it. Warning signs, when again, right, this cough is disturbing. Really, the child is coughing and disturbing his sleep. It is not allowing the child to eat or drink, making the child to vomit always or after the cough. Yes, please don't wait. It might be sign that it's worsening, so please talk to a pediatrician. And there is a fast breathing, as I told you. Now everyone would be aware of this, right? Cough with fast breathing is not good. Okay, and the cough is there with high fever. Initially there is a fever and then the cough starts. It's not good. And whenever you find that there is a noisy breathing from the chest, right? See, this is the nose block sound which usually is common. You can manage with nasal drops. If the sound comes from the throat, okay, you can observe. If you can keep the ears carefully near the child, you can always observe that where the sound is coming from. If it is from the throat, if it is from the chest, it's not good. It might be sign of wheezing. So please take care and then don't wait too much. Okay. So one small trick I'll give you. So usually when you have spoken to a pediatrician, they would have asked any illness you ask. The first question they ask is, after all the symptoms, how is the child acting? How is the child like behaving? The child is active as usual in spite of the illness. That means your child is fighting off the infection. Is good. It's going good, right? If the child is how is eating and drinking otherwise, you can't expect him to eat as normal. But yes, if you're able to reasonably manage eating and giving him fluids in spite of whatever symptoms he has, that means he's able to manage, you're able to manage. It's good. And he's avoiding urine as usual, right? That means the system is working good in spite of the illness. He is able to fight it off. And you have to keep in mind any symptom, just ask these questions. Is he behaving usual? Is he eating, drinking okay? Is he avoiding urine? Fine. That means 90% usually there might not be anything very urgent or anything serious. Okay. But you have to keep on monitoring. So the message I wanted to give is, I wanted to empower the parents not to panic at every symptom, right? So you have to, once you understand why these symptoms happen, you understand the probable reasons for these symptoms, it's easy to manage. So don't panic for every symptom. Understand the context of your child. If a child has a high risk, any medical condition, yes, you have to be very vigilant. Don't wait. And especially in the current scenario, if there are some positive patients around or in the family, make sure, yes, it might be the COVID. So talk to your pediatrician. Start with basic medication, as I told, right? You can always have these medications from your pediatrician. The paracetamol, the vomiting medicine, the nasal drops, these all are commonly available. And ensure that you have adequate hydration for the child. So you feed small feeds, right? Don't force feed. They will not be able to eat even when you have fever as an adult. You'll not be able to eat like normal food, right? You say "ಹಸುವಾಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ, I'm not hungry," right? Same child also feels the same, right? Don't force feed them. Give them rest. Don't take them out or don't expose them to cold air and all, right? Don't give them head baths, right, at that time. As I told, one very important highlighted here, look for any warning symptoms. Okay, please make sure you understand those things. You can always reach out to pediatrician virtually. Need not wait for 2 to 3 days. But if the symptom doesn't seem to get better in 3 to 4 days, please meet them in person. Don't try to contact them virtually and prolong the care. Do not start antibiotics, very important, or other medicines of previous prescription blindly. Yes, the symptomatic medications you can start, but antibiotics, no, please. This can cause a lot of antibiotic resistance and unnecessary escalate the situation. And anything rapidly worsening is something you have to meet immediately. Okay, whatever I have told now, in spite of this, you are concerned, right? Any symptom happens, you are really concerned. A concerned parent is something should not wait, go on waiting at home. You please meet the pediatrician. It might be something which you understand about the child, right? It may not, I would not have explained here, but yes, if you are really concerned, I want you to talk to a pediatrician. So this is what I thought, a small gist of main symptoms and how you can manage yourself at home initially as a kind of first aid. And then at the right time, seeing the kind of warning signs, you talk to your pediatrician, right? So I think I close this here. We can have some, I can take some questions which if somebody has, we can discuss, right?
Um,
Was it
uh,
clear? Was it
yes.
kind of,
Yeah. Hi, doctor. This is Sneha.
yeah, tell me. Hi, Sneha.
Yeah. My son is 12 years old,
Okay.
and we all suffered with COVID in the month of May, and we recovered also. Probably we took some time, but my son recovered in just 2 3 days.
Okay.
But doctor immediately, because we were in our native in Davangere, we
Okay.
consulted Dr. Guru Prasad, the pediatrician in there.
Okay.
So in 2 days, yes, it was not any, ಹೆದ್ರು ಅಂತದ್ ಏನು ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಎರಡು
Idilla.
ದಿನದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಗು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಆರಾಮಾಗಿದ್ದ.
Okay.
ಸೊ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ನಮಗಿರೋ ಸಿಂಟಮ್ಸ್ ಅವನಿಗಿಲ್ಲ.
Okay.
ನಮಗೆ ವಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ರಿಕವರ್ಡ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ ಈಗ.
Okay.
ಬಟ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಹೌ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಕೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ದೆಮ್
Okay.
ದಿಸ್ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್
Got
ಕೋವಿಡ್
it.
ಅಂತ.
See, I'll tell you one important message. I wanted to have this so all those families who has COVID, right? So usually children will be the same. Manele irtare. So it is understood that they would have also had COVID. You might or test madiralla. Okay,
ಹಾ
you
ಹಾ
would not
ಹಾ
have
ಹಾ.
tested them, but then assume that they have COVID. Okay, but the
Okay.
COVID ಬಂದ್ ಹೋಯ್ತು all fine. But ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಏನ್ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಬಂದ್ ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ 6 to 8 weeks, okay, it
Okay.
is very important where any symptom of fever going beyond 3 days, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of vomiting, high fever, rashes, eyes
Mm-hmm.
becoming red, stomach
Okay.
pain, these are all like ನೀವು ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದೇ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಿಸ್ಸಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಮಲ್ಟಿ
Okay.
ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲಮೇಟರಿ ಸಿಂಡ್ರೋಮ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅಗೇನ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಕೋವಿಡ್. ಸೊ
Okay.
ದೊಡ್ಡವರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ತರ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಇನ್ಫೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆದಾಗ.
Okay.
ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಹೋದ ಮೇಲೆ ದ ಬಾಡೀಸ್ ಇಮ್ಯೂನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇಸ್ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟಿವೇಟೆಡ್. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೆನ್ ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ 2 to 3% ಆಫ್ ದೋಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕೋವಿಡ್
Mm-hmm.
ಅವ್ರ ಈ ತರ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಬಂದ್ ಹೋಯ್ತು, ಬಟ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ 1 month ಅಲ್ಲಿ 2 months ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಹೈ ಫೀವರ್ ಬರೋದು, ಕಣ್ ತುಂಬಾ ರೆಡ್ ಆಗೋದು, ರ್ಯಾಶಸ್ ಬರೋದು, ವಾಮಿಟಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ಎನಿ ಸಿಂಪ್ಟಮ್ಸ್, ಸೊ ಬ್ಲೈಂಡ್ಲಿ ಯು ಕೀಪ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಮೈಂಡ್. ಕೋವಿಡ್
Mm-hmm.
ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ರೆ, ಓಕೆ, ಮಗುಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಮಗುಗ್ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೂ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಇರೋ ಮಕ್ಕಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ 2 months ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎನಿ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಿಂಪ್ಟಮ್ಸ್, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಟೇಕ್ ವಿತ್ ಪಿಂಚ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾಲ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಡೋಂಟ್ ವೇಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಟೂ ಲಾಂಗ್. ಒನ್
Okay.
ಆರ್ ಟೂ ಡೇಸ್ ವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಟ್
Okay.
ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಟು ಪೀಡಿಯಾಟ್ರಿಷಿಯನ್. ಇಟ್ ಮೈಟ್ ಬಿ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್, 2 to 3%
Okay.
ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟ್, but it is definitely we have to pick it up early. We can't wait too long. Okay,
Okay. So you
that's
we
one
to
thing.
we should be careful for 2 months, is it?
2 months, 2 to 3 months at least. Yes, it's
Okay.
very
Okay.
important.
Fine.
Otherwise,
Fine.
they'll be fine if they don't have any of this or normal.
Yeah,
Adults ತರ
he's
ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ
very
ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್
much.
ಇರಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ.
Yeah, he's very much normal, doctor. I mean, attending his
Fine.
online classes,
Keep
playing, so
just keep
everything is
observing.
normal.
Keep
Sure.
observing
Sure.
this.
Okay. Thank
And
you so much.
there is one question in the chat I can read out. So Vishwas Gangarapu, yeah. So what is the importance of flu shot specifically in the current preventive situation? Yes, good question. I actually wanted someone to ask. See, what happens is now that yes, flu vaccination, now the flu season is starting. July, August, raining season. Flu season starts. So what is flu? You all know, right? Cold, cough, some fever will be there. But yes, the same, all the COVID also behaves like this, right? So initially, you will not be able to know whether it is COVID or it is the flu, regular flu, influenza AB, which was always there before, right? So now ಇವಾಗ ಬಂದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಕಾಸಸ್ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಷನ್. ಈಗ ಕೋಲ್ಡ್ ಕಾಫ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಸಿನಾರಿಯೋ ನಾವೇನ್ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದಪ್ಪ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಓಕೆ, ದೆನ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಐಸೋಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ದೊಡ್ಡವ್ರನ್ನ ಸಪರೇಟ್ ರೂಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಹೊರಗೆ ಹೋಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ, BBMP ಅವ್ರು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ದೇ ವಿಲ್ ಡೂ ಆಲ್ ದಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್. So to avoid this confusion, one major thing is all this chaos and confusion is avoided if you give flu vaccination, so that if there is any protection, definitely protection is there. Okay, protection will be there. Protection in the if flu symptoms baralla, so the confusion cause agala. Okay, but there is no I'm not telling it will directly reduce the COVID. It's not that. Okay, but there are some high risk children, those who are have like asthma, wheezing problem, those who frequently get colds and cough once in 2 to 3 months, guarantee cold bande barutte, cough barutte, antibiotics ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. So all these are all high risk children. Okay, these will definitely benefit from flu vaccination. And all children less than 5 years, it's advisable to have this like flu vaccination. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಕೋವಿಡ್ ವ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿನೇಷನ್ ಇನ್ನ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ. It might come shortly. But yes, they will help reduce the confusion, help reduce the influenza part, which will reduce the risk of COVID. Direct COVID risk ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡೋದು, it's not scientifically there, but definitely helps. Hope it was I could clarify the message. Fine. So let me check if any other message. Yeah. So Ravi Prakash has asked one question. What is the daily diet for a 10 months baby? Right. So for a 10 months baby, see, adult ದೊಡ್ಡವರಲ್ಲಿರೋಂಗೆ there is nothing like diet chart for babies. Okay. So common first thing is up to 6 months, what is advised is you follow exclusive breastfeeding, what we call. Okay. So breastfeeding is like only breastfeeding, nothing else, not even water up to 6 months. 6 months ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ you start with what we call weaning. Weaning andre, it's not that you're stopping your breastfeeding. You have to continue breastfeeding usually up to 1.5 to 2 years. That is the maximum. Okay. Along with because the child is growing, so as the child is growing, the energy requirements is increasing. So along with kind of this breastfeeding, you have to start solid food. Okay, so the solid food, and usually what we start with ragi, some cereal based food, ragi or kind of mashed rice and dal we start with, and boiled vegetables. These are the usually starting foods we start. And slowly the target, I think you have to remember in your mind, by 1 year a child should have the family diet. That means whatever you're eating, I don't say all paratha, curries, everything like that, but yes, so whatever you eat as a family diet, breakfast, idli, dosa, vada, all those things, the child should be able to eat. And along with that, the rice, sambar, all those things, they should be able to eat. So the target is by 1 year. So 6 months you have time so that you introduce these foods slowly one by one. Okay, so by 10 months, assume that you have introduced a good variety of foods, some fruits, boiled vegetables, cereals. Slowly keep increasing the quantity. So when you start initially, it might be 1 spoon. So based on acceptance, keep increasing the quantity, keep increasing the variety. So one. I'll tell you one common mistake parents do is, since they don't have teeth, what they do, they mash everything. Initially it's okay, initially you kind of mash so that it's they understand, but I have seen some parent putting the food, no, rice in mixie till 2 years, right? So if you keep giving like that, child also will be used like that, and that is not the way, right? So the target is 1 year family diet in the normal way. Okay, so slowly you reduce that, you make the texture normal texturization, so that the child also feels that okay, this is how the rice feels, this is how the fruit feels, and the throat also get used to, otherwise they start vomiting. Okay, so 10 months they should be eating solid food 3 to 4 times a day. Okay, slowly increase that, at least 2 to 3 scoops, 4 scoops, with good variety, ragi, or like ragi, you can rice and dal. Okay, various fruits. Okay, all this combination you can keep giving. Multigrain also you can give, porridge, you can give payasam, you use ghee in the food, you use jaggery. Using all this, you can prepare your own food. Make sure the quantity is sufficient. Along with it, continue breastfeeding. Slowly they should be able, next 2 months, if the child is 10 months now, next 2 months they should be able to eat your family diet slowly. Okay, hope that clarifies. So I have a couple of more questions here. Nataraj KN. So he has asked, since kids are staying indoors all these days, what is your suggestion for vitamin D supplements? Okay. As you know, the vitamin D is something which most of the Indians are deficient. Okay. So what you can do is, one is they are staying indoors, yes, but they have normal diet also contains good amount of calcium. So if the vitamin D is mainly for absorption of calcium, right? If the child is staying too much of indoors, right, they can be given vitamin D supplement. Okay, but it all depends if there is any deficiencies are there. Otherwise, there is no general recommendation that if a child is staying indoor, give vitamin D. But yes, yeah, multivitamin syrups help. Now that you have to stay indoor, but yes, you can always be in the balcony, go to the terrace and get exposed to some sunlight. It's always possible. But just because they're staying complete indoors, there is no need for no giving right away giving vitamin D supplements. Okay, but if they have some body pains, if they have some leg pains, any symptoms are there, yeah, definitely we can give them. Right, good diet, family diet, good activity, physical, even at home, helps them that. Okay, so hope it was clarifying. Amit Kumar CA, right? He has asked one question. So daughter is 6 years. She has daily morning allergies, cold, sneezing, and stuffy nose. We give her Monter 4 milligram periodically. Please suggest. Yes. So the symptoms suggest that every morning getting up and then sneezing, continuously sneezing, stuffy nose, just rubbing, going on rubbing, it's common. It's usually what we call as allergic rhinitis. Okay. So for that one, the first line is what we call as is antihistaminics. Okay. And there is Monter is one more category of the same thing. If it is settling down with that, okay, it is fine. Otherwise, then there are some other next level of medicines, what we call as intranasal steroids. So these are sprays are available. It depends on their response, how frequently it is happening, how frequently the symptom. If it is only during these 1 or 2 months of this season, otherwise child is fine, we need not give those steroids kind of thing. But if it is even with this medications, it is not kind of controlling, going on increasing. Along with that, they also have some lot of coughs, breathing problems, wheezing problems. They're high risk. Definitely, it has to be controlled. Okay. So Monter 4 mg periodically is fine. You have to see whether if this is kind of giving relief to her. If no relief, yes, we have to examine her. We have to see what kind of to what extent it is there, and she might require some next level of treatment. As I told, there might be some combination medications also given, so please we have to meet once, so that it has to be sorted out. Okay. Amit Kumar, so that was Amit Kumar. Sachin Kamath has one question. My daughter is 2.5 years old. She usually demands and drinks around 500 to 700 ml of water per day. Okay. Does excess water have any impact on the kidney in infants? What's the recommended water intake for her age? See, 2.5-year-old, 500 to 700 ml is actually kind of less. So for a 2.5-year-old, at least, no, like at least 1 liter is what is sufficient. 1 liter is needed at least to keep her hydrated. Definitely, excess water does not cause any impact in normal. If kidneys are normal, right? So excess water does not cause. They will be kind of filtered out. It's always good. But see, 2.5 years old is it's not an infant actually, right? It's not an infant. So infant is usually less than 1 year. So for a 2.5-year-old, 500 to 700 ml is not so adequate. So you can give more. So especially you can give it breakfast, dinner, lunch in between, along with snacks. You can give as much as no need to force. So usually they kind of monitor their intake, and then they control their intake. It's fine, but make sure they take. So urine output is one good indicator. If they're passing good amount of urine, at least once in 4 to 6 hours, like that, 2.5 years old, 5 to 6 times in a day, that means enough water is going, hydration is good. Okay, need not worry about that. Ravi has asked a question. So my son is 21 months. He still cries. So Ravi, yes, my son is 21 months. He still cries for breast milk to sleep, and as soon as he wakes up, this is behavior fine. How to stop breastfeeding? Yeah, agree. So 21 months is almost like he's becoming 2 years old. See, night the breastfeeding at this age, right? So usually after 1 year of age, they will not be hungry at night. So, but the initial babies, they are hungry at night. They need to be given breastfeeding. But what happens is, as they grow old, the breastfeeding continues because as a soothing effect. So the baby gets up, right? We also get awakened at night. Can we mute? Somebody is talking, so I just want to explain this. So what happens is that it's basically soothing behavior. The baby gets up not because of hungry. A 21 months old child does not get up at night for breastfeeding, not for hungry. It's because of soothing behavior. That breastfeed, the sucking behavior soothes a child, and then they sleep. So it's very important. Don't encourage. You can feed before sleeping. In between the night, make sure that you soothe him in some other way, kind of pat him or kind of talk to him, sing to him. But he has to self-regulate his sleep. When they awake, they have to go back to sleep on their own. Right? That's important. So you have to. It'll be a bit difficult initially, but you have to slowly kind of wean it off. So stop this behavior. They'll be irritable for some time, but you have to understand that at night he will not get to suck at breast if he gets up. Okay, so you can stop it slowly. Okay, good. So Ravi Prakash was 6 years old kids can go out and play. Yes, they can go out and play. So usually above 5 years is what we it's recommended that they can wear mask comfortably. Okay, so they can wear mask. Let them not jump around, do running with the mask. It might be difficult for them to breathe. But otherwise, maintaining distance with other kids, they can go out and play. Make sure that the kids whom they are mingling with, you all are kind of agreed that okay, you don't go, not mingling with other crowds, so that you all know how each family is behaving, how each family is meeting and going outside. Okay, if anybody has any kind of symptoms, please make sure they don't go and play. With some distancing, with supervision in open air, yes, they can play. It's possible. Uh, Praveen Shetter has asked one question. For 9-year-old kid, flu shot, single dose or second dose also required. So usually, if initially the it starts with 2 doses. If the child has not taken any time the flu shot, it usually starts with 2 doses. But after 6 or 7 years, it can or given only 1 dose. If never taken, yes, 1 dose is fine. If previously taken also 1 dose is fine. But it depends on the age. So we have to see your vaccination chart if previously you have taken the flu shot or not. And that's important. Okay, Nataraj has thanked. Oh, appreciate. Amit has also thanked. So, okay, Sneha has asked one, how much water a 12-year-old should take in a day? So, 12-year-old is almost like, weight wise, almost like, around 30, 35 kg. So, yes, 12-year-old should take at least 1.5 to 2 liters. Okay, and he should also see that he's passing a regular amount of clear urine. Clear urine is a sign of good hydration. If the urine is concentrated, yellowish, dark colored, yes, that means his intake is not good, so they have to take more. If they are doing a lot of physical activity, then yeah, then they have to take more water, especially some kind of vigorous activities or running here and there, too much of physical sweating a lot, then they can take more, but at least 1.5 2 liters they have to take. Chetana has asked one question. Can asthma patient take COVID vaccine? Yes, COVID vaccine is always preferred. First is for all those who are high risk. So a person with asthma, I'm assuming this adult patient. Okay, so because a child with asthma, currently COVID vaccine is not yet approved in children. So any adult with asthma, history asthma risk, they have to take COVID vaccine. This is for their safety so that they will have a lesser risk of contracting COVID. Okay, so Sneha has thanked, so appreciate, thank you. Ravi Prakash has asked how to overcome from bed urinating for 10 years old kid. Yes, so bed urinating is something is not common at 10-year-old child. So normally, if a child should stop bedwetting by 5 years of age, child is still continuing to bedwet at night. It is something to be taken kind of seriously because it affects their self confidence, because it affects their sleep pattern also, and it also creates a lot of discomfort for the family. Right? It's not that they're not urinating before bed and then they're forgetting to kind of maintain that habit and then they urinate in bed. It's called nocturnal enuresis. Okay, so 10 years child, definitely we have to investigate and find out why this child is still urinating at bed. Is it something like the bladder is not matured enough, or some urine infection is there? There are a couple of reasons. I suggest you please meet a pediatrician, okay, and get this sorted. So Chetana, yes. So does Tegretol tablet affect baby during pregnancy? See, there are some tablets are there, anti-seizure medications. Okay, you always have to take it with under supervision from the pregnancy from your obstetrician, because Tegretol is basically carbamazepine. So it depends the benefit and risk. If the obstetrician or your neurologist feels it has to be given for your control of seizures, it has to be given. But then yes, there might be some effect of anticonvulsant medications during pregnancy. So always please check with your obstetrician and neurologist before taking any anticonvulsant. If there is a need, they can be changed during pregnancy. Okay, it depends on which age of pregnancy as well, right? That's important. Fine. So I think, yeah, we have good interaction. I hope I was able to kind of give messages to empower you to manage your child's basic illnesses at home and not kind of wait too long, to make sure that you understand what is the limitation, till when you can wait, till when you should not wait, especially the current COVID. I think I gave a message. Any family has any child with previously COVID, anyone, next 2 months, please be very vigilant. Any symptom, please reach out to a pediatrician. And as the lockdown is relaxed, I'm seeing that a lot of people are moving out and meeting people. Please make sure you don't go to crowds, don't go for unnecessary kind of meetings. Assume that still lockdown is there, because it's always possible that no cases might rise, and especially with the what we call anticipated third wave, what we're kind of anticipating, it might affect children. All those things are there. Be very careful. What I say is, be very careful, be indoors, stay safe, and then limit your movement outside. And then continue to spend quality time at home, have good diet, and you can go to outdoors and get exposure to sunlight. All that is fine, but yes, be careful. Okay, hope it was a useful session. You can always reach out to us for any of the clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you for the time, and looking forward to more sessions with you.
Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.